by and large, this season was not as great as the last one. Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week, following our last episode, I'll be talking about the third season of Uma Musume Pretty Derby. So before I start, spoiler alert, as always, I'll be talking about everything that happens in this season, and to be fair, nothing really surprising happens, but still, it's good to have the spoiler alert either way. So, this is going to be a really, I'll not say quick, but really simple review of things considered. Because even though I like the season in general, in terms of ideas, aesthetics, and the whole cast of characters that are still pretty cute, pretty wholesome, and as always, I just melt on watching them because they are so cute. This season didn't quite vibe with me as much as the second one because I think, oh my god, let's get to the stars first and then I will start with the actual review. So this season came out in October 2023 and ended in December 2023. It has 13 episodes. It's still done by Studio Kai, and I think at some point Cygame Pictures also came into the production of it. I did not and could not, from my research, confirm or disprove that, so there's that, like, take this with a grain of salt. But I have a really, let's say, there's an impression there that maybe something changed in the middle of the whole thing. Anyways, so we started with the story. Back when we talked about the second season, the ending of it was basically the introduction of, or maybe better yet, the entrance of both Kita-san Black and Satono Diamond into Traisen Academy, as they were inspired by their idols, Tokaiteo for Kita-san and Meijiro McQueen for Satono Diamond. And basically we ended the second season with them entering the academy, and so this is basically their season, more or less. And one of the things that we get to see firsthand is that nobody from the other seasons actually runs with them. They all are present still as students of the academy and so on and so forth, but none of them actually runs with them. I think maybe at some point Ghost Ship actually runs with Kita-san, but that's I could be wrong on that. The very beginning of the season is kind of a bit of a mess, so there's that. So the season starts with Kita-san already running on the track, already past her debut. It's, I think, her first or second G1 race, and basically what we see in the first episode is that she loses to Duramente, who is, at the very least, at the very beginning, the main foil, the main antagonist for Kita-san, who is our main character, all things considered. And even though she makes an appearance, a really great introduction at this start of the season, we later see that Duramente doesn't actually have much in terms of appearing actually and being an antagonist, all things considered, later on, though that's not important for now. So first episode is just to set up the whole setting, let's say, for the season. So Kita-san has entered Traisen Academy. She has joined Spica because she likes Teo so much, and so running with and being taught by or sharing experience with her idol was the main drive there. And so she joins Spica, and now we have all of our older at this point senpais, right? So we have everyone from the first and second season. So Spe, we have Ghost Ship, we have Meijiro McQueen, we have Tokaiteo, we have Daio Scarlet, we have Vodka, and the same trainer as always. I think I didn't forget anyone, probably. So Kita-san is the newest member of Spica, and so the whole thing kind of goes the same way as it did with every other season. She participates in all of the club activities and so on and so forth. The one thing that the first episode already sets up a lot is that Kita-san is really altruistic in her ways, and she loves to help everyone and does take care of the community. The community here being represented mostly by all the shopkeepers from one of the shopping districts that she goes by when she trains, and everyone knows her as the helpful horse girl of the neighborhood somewhat, and she helps a lot with unloading packages from trucks and so on and so forth, and helping the elderly shopkeepers around from time to time. And so the shopkeepers already are set up as more or less their, I will not say parental figures for Kita-san, but it is something to that effect. It's the ones that support her for the most part are the shopkeepers there, and this will become important later. So we have this start. We have at this point we have Suzuka, Silent Suzuka, returning from her overseas extent. I'll mention IRL horse lore a bit later because it's kind of important. I mean, it's kind of important. It's not really, but the thing is, since the last episode that I recorded, I have absorbed a lot of IRL Uma Musume lore due to many creators, mainly on shorts, having this kind of researching the IRL lore and actually condensing them into 1 minute videos. So a shout out to all the guys who actually do that. They actually helped a lot to really I think bring a different perspective on the whole thing, because I didn't know this beforehand, but all of the stories that they tell in Pretty Derby are, let's say, retellings or adaptations of what really happened in real life with the respective horses. So for instance, it brings a whole nother level of spectacle, let's say, when you think about the IRL Tokai Tale actually won, I will not remember, the Tenno Show, I think, the G1, one of the most prestigious G1 races in Japan, 1 year after actually being out of action. So it is not only that they created the plot for the sake of the drama, but it actually happened in real life. So it brings a whole nother level of, let's say, it has that more charm because it's kind of based on a real story, which then gives more credence to the fact that they wrote so the story so well and actually adapted it to be to actually add more characters to it and actually have a let's say romance side story in of itself. But the thing is, I'm talking about the second season. The third season, it actually does also represent the career more or less of Kita-san, and basically, right, the whole thing is the first like 2 episodes is just to set up the whole of this new generation of horse girls, because at this point all the horse girls from the first and second season don't run anymore. At this point, if I'm not mistaken, the time of Teo and McQueen was around 1994 and 1996, I think. And I think Kita-san is 2000 forward. So there is a big gap there. So that's why nobody from the old times, let's say, actually runs anymore. And basically we have this whole new setup with all the new girls. So we have the introduction, and this is besides the first episode, we have the introduction. Then later off, we have Kita-san, we have Satono Diamond, we have Satono Crown, who's Daichan's sister. They don't actually give whether she's older or younger, but anyway, she's her sister. And then we have the introduction of, at the very least, the main cast is Cheval Grande, and I already talked about Duramente. And then Sounds of Earth, though Sounds of Earth is a hit or miss, let's say. It's kind of a really side character, doesn't actually do anything. Anyways, so the first 2 episodes basically set up So Kita-san is at a slump. She cannot win a race if her life depended on it. And then at the third episode specifically is when we kind of start having a kind of a rebuilding kind of montage where the first thing that happens, and it is something that as the second season did, they will project this happening to the main story eventually. But so keep in mind that this does happen at the start of the season, but we have a specific scene of Goat Ship running one of the G1 races, and she has trouble entering the paddock, entering the gates, and already having a late start and so on and so forth. And after that, she announces her retirement from racing, actually, though she doesn't actually quit the school, so that the rules there are not that clear. But either way, from this point forward, Goat Ship, she retires and gives the Rubik's Cube that she has to Kita-san as a symbol of advancement, maybe. It's something like that. It's the fact that if she can resolve more sides of the Rubik's Cube, she can actually advance in being a better horse crew, somewhat. It's something like that. Anyways, so we have then Goat Ship retiring. We have on episode 4 basically Kita-san and Daya-chan making a promise to actually train more, because at this point Kita-san is really discouraged due to her losing a lot. And at this point, if I remember correctly, Duramente has announced that she was injured, and so she had to take some time off and so on and so forth. Though at this point, Kita-san has lost a whole lot of races outside to other people, not only Duramente, who at this point was the main foil. So she notices that she is lacking in training and so on and so forth. And after a whole lot of filler content, let's say, she notices that everybody notices that basically she can take a lot of... has a lot of stamina, and so she could like train a lot harder and so on and so forth. And after some discussion, the trainer calls up the one duo that would represent, let's say, hard training as shown in the second season. So he calls up Mihono Bourbon and Rice Shower. And this is me talking, okay, this is my opinion, but I think they just included these two here because they had the right suits, they had still the voice actresses on payroll and so forth, because it's so out of left field. Because oh my god, I mean, okay, you could call Bourbon, but they just add Rice because she's cute, you know. It's something it's kind of fan service without actually being fan service. And at this point they train. There's a whole montage about Kita-san going into the same building that Rice did in the second season when she was training to run against McQueen. Kita-san goes to the same place and does a whole lot of different stuff. It is really emblematic of the animations that happen in game, so there's that. But then she trains, and then we have a period of the anime then of Kita-san only winning. At this point we change a bit of the spotlight to Daya-chan, because then we have a whole arc of Diamond, and not only her but the whole of the Satono family. So Daya and Crown, they are both part of to this point not really mentioned a cappella team that apparently is only composed of members of the Satono family. And that added to the fact that they have what they call a family jinx, where no girl from the Satono family has ever won a G1 race. So the main driver of Daya-chan at this point in the anime is to actually get over this jinx and actually win a G1 race. So we take, I think, 1 or 2 episodes to actually develop this whole point about Daya having to try again, because at this point we already saw her race and she already lost some of the G1 races. But at some point then we see her train even harder, and these bounces off on Kita-san as part of the motivation for her to keep working even harder, which is pretty cute in that way, and one of the, let's say, highlights of the whole thing. So eventually Daya-chan wins G1 race. Not only that, but also we have, by I think the middle of the episode, we have more of a touching moment, because at this point we had only Teo and Kita-san as the main, let's say, interaction. Also nice nature, but I will touch on nice nature later. The fact is, until this point we only saw Kita-san with her idol, and at this, because also as McQueen is still in speaker and Satono Diamond is on another team, they don't actually have that much interaction with each other. But this one instance, we have actually McQueen going out, hanging out with Daya-chan, and actually having a heart-to-heart, and basically giving the inspiration speech that she needs to eventually get her first G1 race win. And this is the part where I need to draw a line in the sand here, because until this point I don't know if it like comes out in the way that I'm talking about it, but I'm really conflicted when talking about this season, because I have, let's say, a person of two minds when talking about this. Because from one side, this season is really cute, this season is really wholesome, I love Kita-san. I think that her story is pretty cute, the way that she does things and the way that they portray everything that happens is really nice. It complements the what I would expect from a Uma Musume anime and so on and so forth. But then I have the second side, which is the more, I won't say pessimistic, but is the side that takes a step back and actually analyzes the whole series as a big thing. So, and this is, let's say, this is part of my opinion, but I think that in a vacuum we could extrapolate some things. And also, if you really look at it, and this is the main thing, this season has, or better yet, this season does not have a personality of its own. They take a lot of tropes from the second season. They take a lot of things that worked with the second season specifically, and basically they rehash it and basically just change Teo for Kita-san or in McQueen for Daya-chan. It's the same thing. So much so that I have not mentioned this yet, but at this point when Daya-chan actually wins the G1 race, the way that they do the whole scene and the whole thing, it really does come out as the second season. So it really mirrors what happens in the last race of the second season, where they do these really quick cuts between race and everyone that's kind of involved into the story of Daya-chan actually watching the race and hoping that she wins and so on and so forth. Everybody crying, the same trope. It is quite literally the same setup that they did with the last race of Teo, they did here with Daya-chan winning her first G1 race. Because now, instead of every one of the extras that we saw until that point when Teo was actually running and McQueen, we have then all of the Satono girls from the oldest to the youngest. They don't even get named, I'm pretty sure. The youngest, I know that they don't, but the oldest, I don't know if they have names. I know that they didn't actually name them, I'm pretty sure. Not only that, but also Crown is in the stands and with their trainer, that's also on the stands, and Kita-san, and basically it's the same thing. So everybody crying, the whole thing about wishing them to run faster, it's the same, and I can't stress this enough, it's the same thing they did with Teo, they're doing with Daya. It's the same bloody thing, and in a way that's pretty bad, because it shows that the studio didn't actually like create something new to the different character, which would be, I mean, better. Because at this point, and this is the thing that really kind of breaks my immersion, right? So never mind that they use multiple flashbacks from the second season in this season to kind of glaze themselves, which is something that I don't sign up for. I think it's really, really bad when they do it. But not only that, but also the fact that, and this is the thing, back when they did it with Teo, and this may be part of my opinion, but still, back when they did this with Teo, of having this over-the-top scene of everybody crying while she's going to win one race that she had no chance of winning, I already thought, okay, this scene is over the top, but is emotionally charged, and emotionally it's cathartic. It's really well done, because at this point it's the culmination of everything that we worked and saw for 12 episodes. And now on the 6th episode, after maybe 2 or 3 episodes of actually having Saturn and Diamond as our main character, taking the spotlight from Kita-san for like 2 or 3 episodes, we then have the same setup, the same emotionally charged setup, the same crying, same everything, for a character that, even though I know and even though I may like at this point, it's not the same as Teo. It's not the same as working 12 episodes. It's not the same as actually watching her struggle. Because at this point, the only thing that really is keeping Saturn Diamond from winning is the jinx that we don't actually see as a feasible thing, let's say. The jinx is something metaphysical, and while when talking about what happened to Teo had multiple injuries, you know, it's something that's physical, it's something that we can see, and the whole thing kind of breaks down from there. Then adding to that the fact that, and this is some minor nitpick, but still, it's something that I'll mention here, but maybe mention again when wrapping up. When Gold Ship, and this doesn't actually pretend to anything that I just talked about, but when Gold Ship retires, the scene when she announced her retirement, she just throws the name of Gentle Donna and of Forever out in the air, and they don't actually appear in the whole anime. I was like, holy shit, I will have Gentle Donna in the anime. I didn't have Gentle Donna in the anime. That was fucking bullshit, okay? So, okay, tangents aside, the thing is, this anime has a chronicle problem, and this is something that I want to highlight a bit more when talking about the rest of the season, but it has a lot of it recycles a lot of the tropes from the second season. So I know that the second season was way better than the first one, but I don't want the rehash again. I want something new, you know? And I think that I'm not the only one that thinks that, because if you look, and again, I know this is not the objective way to measure the quality of an anime, it never will be, but if you look at the average score of the third season against the second season in my anime list, the second season is like 8.2, the third season is 7.6, so there's that. Scoring aside, after this we have then another, let's say, setup of Kita-san kind of losing her resolve to actually become better, because as she became better, somehow Daichan kind of became more serious about them as rivals in races, and so she kind of lost the sight of Daichan as her rival and not only her friend. So she kind of feels left behind, and then we have this whole thing about her getting advice from Teo again to actually rekindle her dream to actually run. And after some time, she kind of gets the dream again to actually create. I will not remember the exact word, but it's basically to create the scene of everybody smiling, and that reflects to the race that happens in the, I think, 9th episode of I think it's one of the Tenno shows. I will not remember exactly what race it is, where she basically stomps everybody out of contention, so both Cheval Grande and Daichan get absolutely smoked by her, so she takes the lead and doesn't actually let anyone even close to her for the rest of the race. And it is a scene that actually gets way better than what they did with Daichan winning her first G1 race, so it's different from what happened to Teo. It's something new, not only that, but the 9th episode in and of itself is, I think, the most unique episode in the whole season, because they actually do so many different stuff, which then leads me to my initial comment about the fact that I could not confirm this, but I think that Cygames Pictures got involved in the production of this anime from this point forward, because the 9th episode forward, not the animation really, but some parts of the animation and some parts of the presentation stuff kind of change a lot. So it leaves this idea that maybe someone else was doing the whole anime in and of itself. Someone else had input on what they were doing with the anime. That being said, what happens then is that we have the 10th episode where, much like the 10th episode in the second season, there is a break. So at this point, we have Kita-san riding high with the whole thing of actually winning a race and creating the scene that she wanted to see, where everybody's smiling and so on and so forth. And then at the 10th episode, we have a whole, let's say, filler kind of. It's not really filler, but kind of feels like filler. It's basically a romantic date between Kita-san and Daya-chan, which is not really romantic as per se, because they don't actually get romantic in this series, but it's the projected romance, same as they did with McQueen and Teo. It's not the same, but you can see that they projected romantic stuff within the story, although they don't actually get romantic and so on and so forth. The thing is, they have their date, and eventually, at this point, I think Daya-chan has already expressed that she wanted to go international to race in France against better races and so on and so forth, and try to be the representative of Japan to actually win I'll not pronounce that correctly. It's the rally at the Arc of the Triumph. I cannot say that in French if I wanted to, because I don't know French, so there's that. I will spare everybody here from my terrible French. The thing is, she wants to go international, and so she kind of says, why don't we to go international and race there? And so Kita-san's kind of, yeah, okay, sure, no problem. And then we have then a G1 race where Satono Crown and Kita-san running and Chapéu Grande, and it is the first time where Kita-san actually loses to both Satono Crown and Chapéu Grande. And Satono Crown gets first place, and I think Chapéu Grande has the second or fourth place, I don't actually remember. The thing is, Kita-san ends up losing, and it feels really closely to what happened to Silent Suzuka in the first season when she had the fracture in the middle of the race. But then we learn later on in the next episode, the 11th episode, that and I don't know how this works on horses exactly, but from one day to the other, or at least in the time frame that the anime shows us, it's not really clear how much time passes between each race, because it feels like it's one after the other, but we know for a fact that it's not, like months and months. And I mean, every living being has their growth phase, their, let's say, the golden phase where you function, let's say, perfectly, and then the decay where you started to ramp down functions, let's say. And this may as well happen to any living being, and so on and so forth. And the fact is that at this point in time, the 10th episode, Kita-san starts to feel her 30s, let's say, and so she's past her prime. They just call it past her prime. I don't really know the technical terms for it, but I know that probably the technical term is way worse than what they did in the anime, so that's that. The thing is, she starts to lose her old stamina. She's not as strong as before. She cannot do as much as she used to before in her prime, and so even though she promised Daya-chan to go to France and race there and so on and so forth, she now, one episode later, sees that her time is limited in racing, and so things happen, and she announces that she's going to ramp down activities until the end of the year, where she will retire after the autumn tenno show, the senior autumn tenno show. I don't know how that works. But then there's that. At this point, I have not mentioned it, but at this point she has kind of become friends with Duramente, even though Duramente at first didn't actually even acknowledge her as an adversary, though that's because Duramente is one of the characters of all time. I think she's pretty cute in that way. I know it's not meant to be cute, but it's pretty cute. The fact that she calls Air Groove Groovene, it's so funny. It's cute. Anyways, I'm getting off track. The thing is, Kita-san announced that she will retire at the end of the year, and then we have a whole other thing where she then has to kind of show off in her last few races. She does win the normal autumn tenno show on top of from Crown and Cheval Grande. I think in the second to last race she loses to Cheval Grande, and we have this mini arc of Cheval Grande actually not winning any G1 races, now kind of close, even though she's kind of a tsundere, all things considered, though they never really acknowledge that. And then the last race, if you watched the first and the second season until then, you know that the last race, with all this setup, there couldn't be any other outcome other than Kita-san wins. I mean, it's obvious. And that's where the anime ends. So Kita-san retires from racing and goes on living and stuff. Pretty Derby then. This is the end of Uma Musume Pretty Derby. Already to set up some things, I think next week probably I'll be talking about the specials. I don't know if all of the specials in one single episode, but some of the specials. I know that I have BMW, I have Road to the Top, and then I have Beginning of a New Era. And then after that, I have the first season of Cinderella Glory, and hopefully until I get to Cinderella Glory really, we have the second season already released, though I would not put that so certain, because I think that this is going to be on October, so it will release on October and end in December, so probably maybe there is not going to be this year, I think. Anyways, so talking about my whole opinion on the show, and talking about the things that I want to harp more on, and the things that I actually think that are pretty neat in this anime, because as I said, I have two minds about it. One side says that everything's pretty nice, and the other one says you have already seen this is just copying their homework. So let's start with what I want to harp on about, because then we can finish with the good things. So first off, there's no song that actually grabs onto me like Winning the Song from the second season, which I think is a massive failure on the part of the studio. I think that, I mean, they do animate somewhat the beginning of the last song in the anime, that is them, I think Kita-san, Satono Diamond, and I don't remember who got second place on that, because it was not Cheval Grande. I think Divinity is the name of the horse girl. I may be wrong on that, don't quote me on that. The thing is, right, so I know they kind of started to animate that, though as a lot of things in this anime, it ends up with a montage and the song, and not really animated the whole music, the whole song, and so on and so forth, which then leads me to say that they've missed a massive opportunity on having another great insert song as Winning the Soul. Oh my god, that song kind of changed my life. I really like that season, can you tell? The thing is, right, so there's that. One thing that, as I watched more and more to kind of remember everything that happens in this anime, I didn't actually remember that much when I started talking, but like rewatching some of the parts just to remember some things, I noticed again. I hate the fact that they used a lot of screaming this season. It really does feel like that meme from Black Clover back when it was first releasing the anime, because Asta couldn't shut the fuck up. And I know that it is somewhat, let's say, not emblematic, but somewhat like within character to actually scream like that. But oh my god, they scream so much. You didn't see this in the first or second season, and for some reason all of the girls scream a whole lot. It's like, oh my god, man, we went 2 seasons without this shit. Why are you bringing this now? So terrible. Adding to that the fact that overall, and this may be on me, but overall I don't think that the story of Kita-san is that interesting compared to Teo. That's really more, on my opinion. It's not really objective, right? But I feel like watching Kita-san develop and then see her downfall is really, not that it is strictly bad, but it's really kind of, I feel conflicted talking about it, right? So when she was running high, it was really nice, really cute, really cathartic, the way that she worked so hard to do it and so on and so forth. But then as time progressed, and then she had the whole thing about not being her prime again and actually suffering to complete races on first place and so on and so forth, it kind of felt kind of wrong. Like, oh my god, now that I see her at top prime, the one next time that I see her running, she's already past it. I couldn't even take solace in the fact that she was doing good. She just went one race unbeatable, and then the next one she was suffering and lost. Kind of feels there's a weird juxtaposition there. Then talking about the whole anime itself, I think animation went pretty okay. It's maybe a bit worse than last season, but it's not really that noticeable. Talk about songs, I already did. There was no insert song of Things Considered. One of the things also, and this goes with the fact that we had a whole lot of plot point rehashing from the second season. We had a whole lot of things strictly reused from the first 2 seasons. The other thing that I noticed, and I feel kind of, I know this may be a small nitpick for some people, but to me at the very least it feels kind of wrong. They use a whole lot of montages towards the end of the season, so it feels like, I don't know, I know it's not laziness that's per se, but it feels like they didn't want to animate everything, you know, in an anime that you should animate stuff. Anyways, so those are the main, let's say, cons on this whole season. Kind of messy. I think that for the most part, we missed a lot of the formula that gave the first and second season their sauce. It feels like that even though the stories between the girls are connected, they don't feel like falling in the right places. Even though Satono Diamond, Satono Crown are connected to Kita-san, and on the other side, Chevaugrand is also connected to Kita-san. It doesn't really feel like they are all connected in the same way. I don't know if I'm making sense saying that, but it is something that feels kind of weird in my opinion. Then talking about the whole thing about glazing themselves, I think that they reuse a whole lot of clips from the second season without actual necessity. I feel like it was self-glazing. It could not be, but to me it feels like it. I think that they reuse a whole lot of horse girls that they didn't actually need to include here just for the familiar kind of site. Not all of the food gags are with Oguri Cap, which then gives this a 0. For the most part, some of the important, let's say, legacy horses that I thought I would see more didn't actually appear that much, and the ones that I didn't think that would appear actually appeared. Special mention to Mihono Bourbon and Rice Shower. They shouldn't be here. I think that they were only added as a fun callback. to the second season. Then also talking about this, I think the only time that we actually see Rudolph in the Air Groove. I mean, Air Groove we see multiple times, but Rudolph specifically as the student council president, we only see her, I think, in the 9th episode, if only that. We don't see Marozensky. Anyways, one small thing that I didn't mention, but Sounds of Earth as one of the side characters that are introduced here. She joins Canopus, so in joining Canopus we have then the free ticket to actually see Twin Turbo again, who has a really impressive number of lines, considering the fact that they were not meant to be there, you know. There was one extra edition that I don't actually remember her name, sorry. I think Ricky, maybe? Something like that. Then the appearance of random horse girls that we saw back then. We then have a really quick skit with Palmer, with Mejiro Palmer and Helios. We have the appearance. I don't remember to see Urara anywhere. We have then the rest of the Canopus. So we have Dictus. We have God bless her soul. We have Machikane Tanhausa or Mumble, who is always a funny thing to. She's always funny to be there, and the one that does the predictions is Machikane Fukukitane, I think. And I don't remember the first name, but Toto. And we have appearances of mostly older horses. And now I want to pivot to the good things that happened in this season. Already talking about Canopus, because one of the, I will not say main, but one of the, let's say, main side characters that appear in this season is Nice Nature, because Nice Nature, she ends up having this, let's say, a voice of experience relationship with Kita-san, and it's always so nice because it's clear that she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, but somehow it works out, which then leaves this whole thing about maybe some people just want advice sometimes, which then leads to some of the cutest and funniest scenes that we have, which is pretty nice. Also to the fact that there is one gag that they do by the somewhat end of the season, where at this point Kita-san has like 5 G1 wins and Nature has 0, and so when she sees Kita-san crying, she just thinks, I'll not help her, she can do it without me, she's big enough, she already got 5 G1 race, but then she gets dragged again to Kita-san's problems, which is pretty funny, it's pretty cute. And also because, and this adds to the next point, Nature does a really good job as the voice experience, and being the more, let's say, paternal figure somewhat is, or maternal figures if you want to say that, is the way that Teo and McQueen sometimes, it's not prevalent, but sometimes they mention the fact that, how they have grown, how they have developed. It's something like the parents seeing their daughters kind of grow up and become strong and stuff. It's really cute. And now the main thing that I wanted to talk about, because it's something that really caught my eye. The art style, I think, went past all my expectations in this season. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I know that in the game right now, Kita-san was like released, I don't know, 2 weeks ago at the time of recording, and I don't know if really Kita-san, but I know that the Kita-san support cards out and everybody was like wavering for it. The thing is, right, so all the girls in this generation, so Kita-san, Satano Diamond, Satano Crown, and Chevogran especially, I think that this is something that I need to actually take note of, especially talking about Kita-san. I love her racing costume design. I love the festival vibes with the kind of yukata sleeves and stuff. The whole of the color scheme is impeccable. The style, the boots, the whole thing. It's so well done. It's a masterclass on design. I think that they I will not say went all out, but they really captured the festival style that she's known for in her costume. It's so cute, so nice. Also a shout out to Satano Diamond. Satano Diamond is pretty cute too. The whole get up with the dress and stuff. And the one that I think steals the spotlight at the beginning of the show, and unfortunately she doesn't actually get any more time in the spotlight outside of the first race, and then I think 1 or 2 races after that. One of the races she loses to Kita-san, so there's that. I think that the design for Duramente's costume is really nice too, especially. And I think that design for Duramente in general, I think it's pretty cute. She seems so nice. It's so cute the way she acts. I don't know. And at this point, I think that for the most part, that's it. The anime itself, I think that did not end up as great as the second season, as I already said. I wish that they did a better job with maybe focusing on one single lane, as they did with the second season. They fleshed out Tail, fleshed out McQueen, and then just wrapped up the story. I don't think that they did such a good job here, because I wish they did focus on Kita-san, focus on Taya, and then just shove it up and do whatever. Though this is the way that they chose to do it, and so that's the way that we have the anime right now. Do I recommend it? I don't know, man. If you are on the Uma Musume train, go for it. It's okay. Do I prefer the second season still? Oh yeah, I do. Certainly do. Second season was so great. And on that note, I think that's it. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, please share, please follow, depending on the platform you're in. And I hope you stick around for next time. Bye.